What I'm about to show you is truly amazing, and it's the best change in AI art that I have seen yet. I promise. This is not a clickbait. It will knock your socks off. What if you had this image and you could turn it into this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, all keeping the same composition or pose? I'll show you how. So all the links are going to be in the description below, but we're going to start here at Hugging Face, because these files are the largest. So we're going to start with them so they can download while we do the other stuff. And there are a lot of models there that you can use, and you can use all of them and play with them. But I would recommend that you start with the ControlNet Canny, the depth map or the Midas, the open pose, and the Scribble. So I would pick those four. Canny, when you go into that, just press download. And you do the same with depth map, open pose, and Scribble. And if you just want to try one of them, try the Canny or the depth map, depending on how much space you have. Now, once you've done that, you're going to start a command prompt, and you do that by typing CMD into your Windows search bar. You can also go into your folder here and type CMD. If you do it from here, you would end up in your directory that you're in my case, my Stable Diffusion Web UI. And then you're going to type pip install opencv-python. That will install some prerequisites for you. After that, we're going to go into our Stable Diffusion, and we're going to find this tab here, extensions. And here we can install extensions. And then you're going to copy and paste the link for the GitHub ControlNet, which is this one, in here, install from URL. Then press install. And it says installed. And then, as it says here, use install tab to restart. We're going to go into the install tab, and then we need to apply and restart our UI. Okay, so all our models, or the four models that we picked, have downloaded, and we're going to move them. You can either command copy to copy, but since they're huge, I just want to command X that would cut them, and then we would go into our Stable Diffusion Web UI folder. You need to go into extensions, Web UI ControlNet, models, and move them here with command V. Now they are installed into your Stable Diffusion ControlNet. So we can close this, and we are going to go back into our Stable Diffusion. And now, while we're in text to image or image to image, you can see here ControlNet. We're going to start with text to image just to generate a starting image. We're going to do pencil sketch of ballerina. So here we have a pencil sketch of a ballerina. We're going to send this to image. That will be our input. So let's say that this is an image that you have sketched or drawn by yourself. And now we're going to change this. We want ballerina dancing in a colorful space nebula swirling with saturated colors. I'm going to scroll down. And down here you can see ControlNet. Now, if you can't see any models here, which is the case for me because I started my Stable Diffusion, my ControlNet before I put in the models, you can just press the button here, refresh models. And if that is not working for you, you can go back into extensions and apply and restart the UI. And if you check your ControlNet model, you should now have the models that we have installed. Now, there are some variations to the models here. And I'm going to show you quickly here on another repo's GitHub. And with the Canny model, you will get sort of a sketch, a paper sketch, depending on your input. Here's the input image, and it's sort of a crude sketch. And then it works from this to create this. And the same with the dog here. The Scribble one is basically if you have an image like this. Our pencil sketch is not as crude as this, but the Scribble could work well for us as well. But basically, MS Paint used the Scribble one. And then we downloaded the pose. And this is basically analyzing the pose of an image. So say you have the character here, and it analyzes the pose and then recreates the pose. So that's just the pose and not the rest of the image. And the last one we used was the depth map. And then it takes the image and creates a Midas depth image. So then we have the image to image up here. We're going to drop it in here as well. And we're going to use the Canny for our first one. Use the preprocessor Canny here as well. So make sure that you use the same preprocessor as your model. The weight is a value between 0 and 2. I recommend that you start with 1 and you can play with values between 0 and 1. I wouldn't recommend going above. If you go below, you're going to have more stylistic results moving away from your initial image. So if you go lower, say 0, for example, it's going to be closer to the prompt than the image. It's still going to be close to your image. If you take 1, for example, it's a good compromise between the two. It's going to be close to the image and still resemble the prompt. We're going to change this to just resize. Now we also need to enable the ControlNet. Now Scribble Mode or reverse color, ignore this for anything that is not the Scribble model. It doesn't provide anything for you unless you try to be super artistic and play with it however you want. For most people, you're going to want to check in low VRAM, 8 gigs or below. As always in Stable Diffusion, the denoising strength is how much the image changes from your input. So 0, no change. 1, a lot of change. So we're going to keep this to, 0.85 for now. Let's generate and see what happens. So as you can see here, we got 2 images. And the second one here is what ControlNet's canny model got out of this input. And it's analyzing the image and takes the sketch here and makes it, lines that the computer can read. And then it translates into our real image, which is basically the prompt. It's a ballerina dancing in a colorful space nebula. And we have the exact same pose as in the first image. So this is truly amazing, and this is game changing. And this will not only change the game for average users, but for professional use as well, where you have complete control of the final image. Now, if we would lower the weight here to 0, we would probably see a little more stylistic results, but you can see that we are losing some of the pose. We still have a similar pose, but it's not exactly the same. We've lost the arm and we've lost the leg here, but it gets a little more stylistic. But that's also why I recommend you to stick with weight 1 for now. Let's try this with the other models that we downloaded. With the depth map. Now with the depth map here, you can see that you have the outline of the image, and you also have, it's a gray tone depending on how the image looks like. Now the pose is almost perfect based on our input. Let's try this with the open pose. Now the first time that you make an image, there might be a slight delay. That's because Stable Diffusion is downloading some of the files, and you can check in your command window, actually see here that there has been downloads 200 megabytes, 141 megabytes. And here you can see the pose. Now this wasn't perfect, but you got the hand here. We got the hand out there, it didn't go there like the input. We have the face and we have pretty short legs, but we're still very close to the initial image. Now for Scribble Mode, you can use text to image, and I actually recommend that. You can use text to image for all of them. So we're going to paint a dog. Actually, I want a penguin. I'm just changing this to chars 30. And again, you have to enable ControlNet, and just remember, since we're scribbling now, you need to enable the Scribble Mode. You can do it without, but Scribble Mode makes it a little better. Right here, Scribble, Model, Scribble. And then you can paint in MS Paint or Photoshop or whatever and just put the image in here, or you can open the drawing canvas, and that's what we are going to do. We're going to draw here our little penguin. I'm going to try the body here. I'm going to put some sort of feet here. And penguins have arms like this, right? Something like that. And, a penguin head. Or a human with very short legs. Okay, we have our penguin. And we are going to generate this. Now we took our penguin sketch very literal. So we got the back of a penguin, sorta. So I'm going to try and give it a little nose here and 2 eyes. See if that changes anything. And it actually did. So now we have a penguin. And as you can see here, the pose is correct and our penguin is fantastic. Let's try and see if we can... is there an eraser here? No, there is not. But we can take... let's try and take the arm like this and just leave the other part in and see what happens. It gave us 3 arms. That's not optimal. But hey, it worked. And it worked well. So there you have it. ControlNet. Now this really is a game changer. And now we could have done the ballerina in text to image here as well. You can play around with it, try text to image, try image to image, and see what works best for you. This is a brand new tool, so there's bound to be some experimentation ahead. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something today. I have a lot of content on AI art, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and AI in general, so check out my channel and the recommended video here. As always, have a good one. See ya.